to be fancy. I'm going live in 3 places. I've never done this before. So I got TikTok right here, Instagram right here, YouTube right here. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here to talk about highest to lowest. And I am looking in 3 different places because I am going live in 3 different places. I've never done this before, but everybody wanted to go live. And so I was like, all right, well, how can I do this without having to go live 5 different times? And so a lot of people have wanted to talk about highest to lowest. So hopefully you came with your questions and your thoughts because this is going to be a full conversation. How you doing, Terrence? Present. Nice to see y'all here. Welcome. Yes, Shannan with an A, E with middle name. It starts with an E. Because this is going to be a discussion, not just me spewing my thoughts at you. So hopefully you are prepared and ready for that. So welcome, everybody. So I have a lot of new people who are following me. So I just want to start off with introducing myself so that people know who I am. So my name is Shannan. I am a former television executive turned screenwriter and script consultant. So what that means is I'm a quitter and a hater, both of those things. I quit my job as an executive to join a dance company and then to do Broadway national tours. And then eventually I quit that. And when I came back to Los Angeles, it was my intention to be an executive again. But I was on the outside of the gate because I had been gone for a decade. So I decided to start my own company, taking my area of expertise, which is storytelling, which is understanding stories, and even bigger, teaching other people how to understand story and making my own business as the first Black-owned script consultancy in Hollywood, The Professional Pen. So some of you are following me from a page that is my name, Shannan E. Johnson, and some of you are following me from a page that is my business, The Professional Pen. So if you're new here, what we do here is we teach screenwriting. And the way that we do that, one of the ways that we do that is by analyzing films, all films, Black films included, because they should not be excluded from our learning. Many film schools out there do not include Black films in their learning. I'm not that person. So when I teach, and I have taught on the undergraduate level, and I have spoken at the Screencraft Writer Summit, and I have taught in the Fox Writers Incubator, and all of those things. When I teach, I always teach not only from contemporary works, but also from Black works. And so I don't mind being called a hater if it means that screenwriters and filmmakers are going to learn, because that's what these conversations are for. Like, sure, you can be a fan and decide to participate in these conversations. You can be a moviegoer. But if you are only a moviegoer, then you are watching strictly for entertainment. Those of us who are filmmakers are watching so that our art can get better. And the only way that our art can get better is to discuss the art, which means we critique. Just because we critique doesn't mean we tear down. The way that we do that is by talking about the why, not just, oh, I didn't like it, not just, oh, it was basura, right? But by talking about the why. What choices were made to make me feel this way? So that when we are then writing our own screenplays, making our own films, we can consider how those choices are going to affect our audience. That's what we do at the Professional Pen. So welcome to everybody. I'm excited to hear your thoughts about the film. Feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm going to try to keep up as best I can. But if you are here, then you likely already saw my full analysis, right? And a lot of my analysis was about the underdeveloped script. And so some people wanted to kind of discuss, how do we get there, right? How do we get to an underdeveloped script? Now, look, I wasn't there. So I don't have the inside scoop on it. I just have the information that is available publicly. But as an executive, I can try to posit, how we got here to an underdeveloped script. So as we know, Alan Fox is a newcomer, right? And as a newcomer, he doesn't have a lot of experience writing works that actually got produced. That doesn't mean that this is the first screenplay he's ever written. Let's make that clear. If you go to his IMDb, he has some credits there. They're just very small credits that none of us have heard of, because we are unknown until we are known. All right. So Alan has written a screenplay before. That's why his friend, Jason Michael Berman, knew that he was a screenwriter. Okay. So my biggest concern is not of Alan Fox, because we all start somewhere and we all think that our writing is beautiful until a couple of other people get to looking at it and giving their opinions and their feedback, which is why you should be doing professional feedback. If you have not gotten professional feedback on your screenplays, that's something we do at the Professional Pen. You can submit your script at the link in the bio. But something that happens in the Hollywood studio system, which doesn't always happen independently, is a development process. And so when you're at home writing your script, that's just the first part of it. You're writing it in your silo. Hopefully you are getting feedback from a professional like myself, like my team of story experts at the Professional Pen. But most independents aren't even doing that much. They write it, they think it's beautiful, and they go out and they shoot. In Hollywood, there is the development process. A lot of the times we call it development hell because our screenplays often get stuck there. And that's during the time where you are getting notes from an executive at that studio, at that network, at that streamer, at that production company, to get your script to a place that fits their mandate, fits their brand, fits the execution that they are looking for, not the execution that you are looking for, screenwriters, the execution that they are looking for. Sometimes their notes can be trash, and what you get on the opposite side of that sucks. Most times, what you're getting is a brain trust of people, right? We learned when we grew up, 2 heads are better than 1. So what you get from your development executives are other people on your team who are your advocates, who are doing the best that they can to make sure that your screenplay, your film, is a success. They don't win if your screenplay doesn't win. So they are on your team. And it is their job to see those plot holes, to see that things are on the nose, to see that the tone is inconsistent, to see that the stakes aren't as strong as they could be, etc. It is their job to see those things up front and then work with the writer to get them there. It is also their job to go, you know what, writer, thank you for giving us a foundation. It's not good enough. Here's your check. Have a good day. We're going to hire another writer to come in and rewrite you, or to revise, or to punch up, or whatever it is that they need to do to get that script to where it needs to be. It doesn't look like we did that with Highest to Lowest. It doesn't look like that. A24 is the production company that did Highest to Lowest. I can only assume they didn't give any notes. Maybe they did, but if they did, that's worse. It's better to assume that they didn't. If they did give notes, that's worse. That's like 800 times worse. Hey, Nisha. That's like 800 times worse if they did give notes, because you gave notes and this is still what we got. But as I talked about in one of my videos, I haven't posted it on YouTube yet. So if you are a YouTuber, you will get this video at some other time, is that Denzel Washington has always wanted to remake this film. So his agent contacted Jason Michael Berman, the producer, and that producer went and got investors so that they could buy the rights when they expired from Disney. And then as the producer went and got Alan Fox to write the script, and then brought it back to Denzel, who read it and brought it to Spike, who signed on. So those are your 2 attachments that are on there. Boom. So if Spike Lee and Denzel Washington walk into a room and say, we want to make something, there are not very many people who are going to go, nah, you can't make it. But the question becomes, nobody read that script and said, this needs some love, right? Even Spike, like, we can talk about Spike being a unique filmmaker all we want to, right? Some people like it, some people don't. I grew up on Spike. I like the older Spike Lee joints, right? We can talk about whether you like the more recent ones or not, right? But I like the older Spike Lee joints. And though they may be different, they may be unique, they are not on the nose. They are not filled with plot holes, right? So I'm just not understanding why we lost that development process. Some say it's because the production was rushed. I don't know why it was rushed. Once those rights were bought, what are we rushing for? But Denzel is also a busy person. He's on Broadway. He's booked and doing other things. So maybe it was, hey, I got this much time to make this movie. Let's make it. But for an actor to have done such great work as he has done, and for Spike to have done such great work that he has done, there's no way that neither of them read this script and said that this thing needs help. The question is, why didn't it get it? Why didn't it get it? And we don't have those answers. We simply don't have those answers. Supposedly, so Terrence is saying he just figured that the reps read it and not Spike and Denzel themselves. Well, Denzel read it because he was the person who had to sign off. He was the green light, right? Spike had to read it because he directed it. If for no other reason, he had to go through so he can get his shot list and figure out, when he wanted to pull out his drones and when he wanted to pull out his dolly. Like he had to read it. You know what I'm saying? So they had to have read it. So how did we get here? I don't know. And like I said before, I don't blame Alan. Alan got a call to write a script. You gonna say no? Even though you're like, man, I'm not very experienced. I haven't done a lot of this. You're not gonna say no. You're gonna do it. But one of the reasons that I'm gonna do it, me, Shannan, whatever my experience level may be, right? So I've been staff before and I'm writing features now, but I don't have anything that I have produced on that level. As an executive, I don't get credits for all the things that I did at the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't have no credits for that. So it doesn't matter how much I helped to build those scripts and those worlds and those characters and what I was doing on set and what decisions I was making. My name is not on any of that, right? So Shannan has not produced a feature film. So if someone contacted me and said, Shannan, we want you to write this script for these very, very big people, I'm not going to say no. But I'm also not going to say no because I'm going to look forward to the development process, right? Me as a writer, I'm going to look forward to getting notes from Spike Lee. I'm going to look forward to getting notes from Denzel, who was also an executive on this, executive producer on this film. I'm going to look forward to getting notes from A24. I'm going to assume that I'm going to have a team that's going to help me get this thing to the place where it needs to be. I'm not going to assume they're going to leave me out here to dry, right? Like, I'm not going to assume that. I'm not going to say no. I am going to sign up for it. And then I'm going to assume that that development process is going to get me to the place that I need to go. Now, with that being said, Spike is more of an independent producer, right? He usually raises his own funds, et cetera, and then distributes through a larger company so that it can get out into the theaters, et cetera. So that doesn't mean he doesn't have a team. That doesn't mean that there's never been anybody on his team at 40 Acres who read and who give notes and who work with him. So I hear you over here. Cut to the Chase has a lot of comments. You guys can't see it because he's over here on TikTok. He has a lot of comments about how Spike works and how Spike doesn't work. But Spike doesn't work in a silo. So even though he might not be working directly with Hollywood executives and getting notes from Hollywood people, he has his own team. And we can also assume, simply by the fact that his older films are not filled with plot holes and on-the-nose dialogue, that either he himself is better at developing, or he has people on his team who can be his checks and balances, right? There's also a difference between writing your own stuff and directing somebody else's stuff. That's a different skill set. There are a lot of writer directors out there who don't want to direct other people's stuff, right? There are, well, thank you, Cut to the Chase. Cut to the Chase wants everyone to know that he works with Spike Lee. Thank you. Thank you for informing us. I'm trying to tell you, but you're not listening. He is not and was never that type of person. Thank you, Cut to the Chase. We appreciate you telling us. Thank you. So with that being said, since he doesn't work that way, Cut to the Chase wants us to know because he works directly with Spike Lee. Since he doesn't work that way, we have an underdeveloped script. And that's why everyone was disappointed. The script was underdeveloped. There needed to be some other eyes some other ears, some other checks and balances on this script. Period. Point blank. Blank. Now, we can talk about his directing choices all we want to. Directing is not my lane. So unless we're talking about directing actors, I pretty much, stay out of that category. So that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about story. Story is my area of expertise. So a couple of the things that people were bringing up, the antagonist is a lot for me, right? And we just to make it clear for those who might be new here, Highest to Lowest is a remake of a film, which is an adaptation of a book, right? Therefore, there are two other pieces of source material. And so I had a lot of people in the comments saying, well, you won't understand the remake if you haven't watched the original. That's not how films work. Films stand alone. You shouldn't have to look at the source material. If that was the case, then we would have to read every Lord of the Rings book before we watch Lord of the Rings. And as a person who one of my degrees was in English, and I had to read those books, they are a hard read, and I like reading. But you didn't have to read the Lord of the Rings books in order to watch the Lord of the Rings movies. As a person who read every Harry Potter, every Divergent, every Twilight, the book is a totally different medium and totally different story from the execution of a film. So the same thing is true of a remake. You shouldn't have to watch the source material to enjoy and understand the remake itself. It stands alone, right? And so I have never read the book. I've never seen the original movie. Maybe I'll watch it. Maybe I won't. I kind of like to watch things that I want to watch in my free time because I have to read a lot of things I don't want to read often. So I may or may not go back to watch it, but I just want to make it clear that a remake has to stand alone, right? A remake has to have a strong core, a strong foundation, a strong inciting incident with a strong goal, with a strong debate, with characters that we are invested in, with clear stakes and active characters that actually try to achieve their goals. And even though some different forms of filmmaking, especially if you look at, Japanese filmmaking versus, American filmmaking, etc. Sure, our act structures may be different. The way that we do it may be different. But at the end of the day, you have to be invested in these characters, which is what I was talking about with Social Proof. So I would like to know from you guys, let's just talk about King David, not his family, just King David. From you guys, based on what you saw in the film, because I try not to rewrite people's stuff, right? They put on screen what they intended to put on screen. It's not about us rewriting it. So with what information we have, what could you have used a little more of to actually be invested in King David's business? Because for me, that's one of the reasons the moral dilemma conversation didn't hit like it was supposed to hit. Because I wasn't invested in King David or his business, therefore his money, therefore understanding what giving up $17.5 million, hopefully that's the right number. If not, please correct me. Giving up $17.5 million would do to him. Because then there are stakes in giving away the money and stakes in losing the godson. But I didn't have a connection to either one of those things. It didn't seem like he was hard pressed for money, right? It didn't seem like I need X amount of money in order to buy my business back. So if I have to give up that money in order to save my godson, then I lose my business. That's an easy connection, right? Like we can jump to that. That's an easy connection, but it didn't feel like that's what it was. It just felt like he didn't want to spend the money, right? But if I cared about him and his business, okay, you're saying he's not likable. Tell us why he's not likable. Give us some more information. If I cared about him and his business, then I would have felt that sting immediately when we thought it was his son that was gone, I would have immediately felt the sting of the ransom, because I would have said to myself, ooh, he can't give up any money right now. He needs that money to buy back his business. But I wasn't connected on that end. Okay, let's see. Aaron Keys said, would have loved some in-depth meeting about the business and why it was so important to him. Yeah. Even understanding his ear. They kept saying like he has the best ear in the streets. I can't remember what the words were specifically, but they kept talking about his ear. But we had no social proof of his ear. I don't even know what kind of music he likes. Right? I don't know what kind of artists he invests in. I don't know if he has a whole bunch of young felons on his roster and that's why he's disconnected because the music game changed so much, or if he has a bunch of music that assuming the culture has gone past now and they're not interested in that, but he's stuck in it, which is why his investors and his board and everybody else want to get out because he's not evolving with the music industry. Not to make this a conversation about music or anything, or anything, but you think about somebody like Beyonce, her music has been relevant at every part of her life, right? Whereas there are other artists that no matter when they come out with songs, it still sounds like 1997, which might be good for somebody like me who's, not listening to the radio and only listening to music from 1997. But for everybody else, right, you have to evolve. But I don't know what it was about him that made his company, his chairs, his board, etc. I don't know why they wanted out. And I don't know why he wanted in. Right? According to his wife, he wasn't even into the music anymore. So it's not like he was stuck in a time, and it's not like he was trying to evolve, but just wasn't hip. Or, I didn't really understand his connection to music in general or his business. Now, somebody else said it was really, really funny. Somebody else said that how is he a music mogul and his suits are so ill-fitting? How do you live in this high-rise apartment and can just find 17.5 million like this? Didn't have to ask anybody for it, baby. Had it. But your suits are fitting like this. Child, I thought that was a good question. Okay, let's see. We didn't know his relevance. It didn't even do some sort of backstory. Yeah. Yeah, Wendell Pierce was in that. They had everybody in here, baby. So I think he needed the money to save the business. Now, did he seem a bit nonchalant about it? Yeah. Like I knew he needed money because I knew he was trying to buy the business, but it didn't seem like that was a part of the reason why he was hesitant on spending the money on his godson's ransom. It seemed like, yeah, I can go get the money, no problem. He was acting so cool the whole time. Like even one of the trailers that is floating around, ASAP Rocky, young felon, calls him, and all the the police are around. Everybody's like, okay, answer the phone, and King David's like, okay, relax. There's a missing child. He's taped up in a bathtub, bruised and beaten. Relax. He acting like, hey, everything's good. Like we're good. Let's see. They really want to make him a villain. I would have loved to see him torn about paying the ransom for his own son. Right. And before that, show his son competing for his love. Right. But they seemed like they were so close. He and his son acting to the side. A lot of people didn't necessarily care for the acting of the young man. I don't have any words one way or the other. But you can tell that they had a good relationship. But he didn't seem, concerned at all when it was like, yeah, I can go find the money. But even for his godson, it didn't seem like paying the money was a hard choice because he was choosing between his business and the money. It just seemed like, why should I pay for somebody else's child? What takes me to the second social proof that I needed. I needed more out of Paul, which was his homeboy / driver. And I needed more out of Kyle so I could give a crap that Kyle was taken in the first place because I didn't care. Did anybody care that Kyle was taken? Just put it in the comments. Raise your hand. If once you realize that it was the homeboy and not the son, once you realize that, did you care anymore? The biggest problem for me was the poor resolution, not enough catharsis for me. Yeah, but you can't have catharsis if you don't care about any of the characters. You can't have catharsis If your lead doesn't care about any of the characters, he didn't care about Kyle. He didn't care about his homeboy. So you can't lead to catharsis if there's no investment even in each other. Okay, you cared. Okay, why did you care? Just because he was a kidnapped kid? Or did you care because there was something on screen that made you care specifically about Kyle? Because we get 5 seconds of Kyle running around acting silly at basketball practice before he's taken. We don't really get much more from Kyle, right? So what also would have helped is a few more moments, even with King David and Kyle, or with Paul and Kyle. I couldn't tell if Paul was actually close to Kyle or if they had a strained relationship, right? I know Paul's wife passed away. I know Paul was in, hopefully that's his name, Lord. I know Paul was incarcerated. But what I don't know is, was he really, really close with his son, or was he trying to mend that relationship because he had been incarcerated? I don't really know. Because he was kind, respectful, and lighthearted. Who was Kyle? Kyle was kind, respectful, and lighthearted. Okay, so you got a lot out of Kyle in those 5 seconds. I got Kyle is immature. Kyle is not really taking basketball seriously, and he's as respectful to his godfather and to his coach as anybody should be. So for me, he wasn't unique in that. It was like, yeah, these are young boys who have grown up with even this much privilege, because if your godfather is the head of the city, right, then you got a little bit of privilege. You're able to play in this league. You have access to almost all the things you need. They just seem like regular kids, not necessarily that they were, or that Kyle was any more respectful than anybody else was. Yeah, Kyle was one-dimensional and irrelevant. I agree. So when it became about him being kidnapped, I was just like I cared because he was a child. I cared because I'm a human being. But outside of that, the connection wasn't there for me. Okay, let me go back. Let's see. I said, wow, when the wrong one got picked up. But how did young felon know that the godson was of any significance to King David? Well, he took the godson on accident. He wasn't trying to take the godson. He was trying to take Trey, because for whatever reason, young felon knows that Trey wears a green headband. And as you can see in the film, Kyle takes the headband from Trey. So Kyle is wearing the green headband when he gets kidnapped. So young felon thought that he had kidnapped Trey because of the green headband. Yeah, that's what happened there. Okay, a lot of people had issues with the investigation. So let's talk about it. What did you expect from the headband was originally Kyle's? Okay, I might have missed that. Whoever's it was, that was supposed to be the thing that helped us to understand that they snatched the wrong kid. Something going on with that headband. Okay, let's see. What is Nafi saying? I agree with no suspense. Wasn't a fan of the climax because it wasn't believable. While we know that Denzel is the equalizer and all that, I didn't believe he could actually beat A$AP Rocky. Not only did I not believe he couldn't beat up A$AP Rocky, I also felt like he couldn't get through to him. So that long, back and forth between the two of them, unlike The Equalizer, which is obviously a different film written by a different person, directed by a different person, and Denzel is playing a different actor, right? But if we think about Equalizer 2, he's dealing with a young man who's kind of caught up in what's going on in the streets, but he sees he has potential. But we also see he has potential. That's the difference. We see that he has potential. We see why he's falling into the wrong hands. Therefore, we know he is a person that Denzel Washington can talk to and make a difference in his life. Young felon tried to kidnap your son, kidnapped your godchild, beat him up, took your money, took your wife's bracelet, gave it to another woman, put it under his bed, and then went into the studio and started rapping. And you was like, yeah, I'm just going to show up and talk to him. What? Okay, hold on, Network My City. Let me go back. I'm on 3 different screens now. I'm not ignoring you on purpose. If we could have had all 4 of them together on the way to practice, establish it there. You are correct. Yeah. So, what are some of the things that you needed to happen in the investigation? What misdirects could have been there? Because that's what happens in a thriller, right? You investigate, you find clues, your clues take you to the wrong answers, and then you have to work your way out of the wrong answers into the right ones until you get to your actual suspect, villain, antagonist. Whereas here, there was never a time when Denzel, a mogul in the music business, and everybody knows more money, more problem, right? Pun not intended. Excuse me. Everyone knows more money, more problems. If I'm at the head of my game in something, I have haters, period. I have enemies, period. There was never a moment when the police said, who are your enemies? Who could be doing this to you? Why is this happening? Never a moment. So we didn't even put any other suspects on the list in order to give us misdirects, which would have gave us some of those thrills and some of that suspense that we were looking for. Then when we finally do get to a point where we leave the stupid cops alone, oh, I can't stand stupid cops. But when we leave the stupid cops alone and Denzel randomly decides to start listening to music and doesn't start with the artist that his son told him to listen to. It's like, come on, man, come on, setup after setup, after setup after setup, and y'all are just not utilizing them. He's randomly starts listening to music once he realizes I'm going to lose everything. So let's just assume that's the motivation. I think we needed the moment of looking at the list of artists that his son had sent to him, or him contacting his son to say, hey, who was that artist again, or something, so we could understand, like, are you looking for motivation? Is that why you're listening to these artists? Are these your own artists you're listening to? Are these new artists you're listening to? Who are these people you're listening to? But okay, I can put two and two together. You're listening to new artists because you're trying to get motivated because you're losing your business. It's happening right here in front of you. So that's how you end up listening to Young Felon's song. Now, here's something that I think would have really connected this. What if the son would have been trying to get King David to listen to Young Felon this whole time versus this other female artist? Or if he was one of the artists, right? His son seems to want to be like an A&R, right? He wants to run the business. So what if the son would have had a list of people, and at the beginning of the movie, instead of, hey, have you checked out Light Skin Zendaya? Instead of that, what if it would have been, hey, have you checked out that new artist I told you about, Young Felon? Like, his music is really hot. I know you're not really into rap, which would have given us some backstory on what kind of music his dad is into and whether he likes the new kind of music or doesn't. You know, hearing it from a young person who listens to that kind of music, he could have been listening to that music himself in his room. He could have been saying, hey, I've been talking to you about this for months. That way we know Young Felon maybe didn't try to get to King David himself, but was at least trying to use the son to get to him, right? So that in the end, not the end, but in that moment when he decides to start listening to music, he went back to his son's list, and there's the guy right there, the guy that you've been ignoring, right there on the list. You're listening to it, you remember his voice, and boom, now that takes you to him. But with that being said, then the investigation got really, really easy, because all Paul had to do was send a picture of the young man in a text thread, and the streets knew where he was. So how did someone who could come up with such an advanced scheme to make sure that they had somebody standing in the exact space, so when Denzel accidentally drops the money, they can catch it, pass it on to all these people, and end up with a bag of tampons? This is the same person who all you had to do is put his face in a text thread, and now we know where he is, and we can just find him. So even there was an opportunity for a little bit more investigation, right? A little bit more of an opportunity to try to find him. Okay, let's see. That would have been great. Or Denzel rejected, didn't sign him after his son brought him around. That's why he kidnapped him. Exactly, because then he would have a connection to the son. He would, be able to kidnap the son, or kidnap the, obviously the moral dilemma is about it being somebody else's kid. So they still have to figure out, how does he end up with the other kid instead of ending up with the son? But it would have made, us be connected more to it, to have our antagonist young felon just be a little more dimensional, period. Right? Just be a little more dimensional by seeing he is a person with that potential. Because a lot of people left the movie going, I like the song. Right? A lot of people left it going, I like the song. The song is great. So had we had an opportunity to like really get invested with this young man, we too would have understood why he would go to such lengths to be seen. That's all he wanted, was to be seen, right? He named his child after him. He used to stand outside the door. Paul said he approached him one time trying to get to King David. You tried one time? Come on, man. Get out there. Let's see. When he dropped the money, I knew I needed to figure out why Spike made this movie at all. Yeah. I didn't understand why the money needed to be dropped on accident when they were on their way to do a money drop. I didn't understand that part. Remind me of another writer that said how difficult writing mysteries and comedies are. The music video did come out of nowhere. But again, Spike is the kind of person who will say, hey, I have a message. So here's the message. Remember at the end of School Days when Lawrence Fishburne stood in front of the camera and yelled, wake up? That's what this is, right? Seeing a music video with butt cheeks in the air and, young felon rapping his whole song so that we could have this feeling. That's why it's there. Like, that part didn't even bother me as much. That part felt like, all right, Spike, you're here. Welcome to the party. Someone asked me why how I felt about the ending. I felt the ending was corny, but I felt it was necessary. Oh, he told him to drop it there. That wasn't no accident. Oh, I thought he said that he accidentally dropped it. So that's my bad. I thought King David said out loud when he was talking to his son and his wife that he accidentally dropped it, but maybe not. Or maybe he said it to the investors, to Wendell Pierce and all of those people. I feel like I thought he said it, but hey, child, I was trying to push through. So who knows? But I can't remember what I was going to say. I kind of got distracted there. But yeah, so all of those kinds of things are things that people can find in the script, right? And develop ahead of time. Those are not things that you find out in editing or that you realize as you're directing. Those are things that are in the script to have more investigation. And from what I hear from the original, there was more investigation in the second half, but it was the police who were doing the investigating, not the family. And, I don't know how that made viewers feel. I don't know if they take the time to make us invested in the police so that we care about watching them, do the investigation. I don't know. I know with these particular police officers in this movie, I didn't want to watch them do anything. They were the worst thing about this film for me. Those police officers really were unhelpful and on the nose. And I didn't think that their acting was that great. Now, there's not very much you can do with on the nose dialogue. As you can see, our greats, Denzel, and he said it to the investors. That's what I thought, Crystal. I thought he said he dropped it on accident. That's what I thought he said, but maybe he was lying. So I don't know. I forgot what I was saying again, but developing the script, that you find those things in the script. So in the original, I don't know if they made us be invested in the cops enough to want to watch them do an investigation for the second half of the film. Supposedly the film did really well back then, so the answer might be yes. But the police in this one, I could have done without them. They were so unhelpful that they should have never had to show up. I was surprised that they called the police so quickly. But again, it's a remake, so that's a part of the plot. So you got to get the police into it. But because the police were unhelpful, you could have really left them out. And you could have just made this decision on your own. I also didn't understand why Paul was so cool with his homeboy having to think about saving his child. I felt like Paul should have put his paws on King David. You know what I'm saying? I felt like there should have been a fight. Right? Like, that's my kid, your godson. And someone said earlier, I can't remember what the comment was. It was on Instagram that like, well, that's what makes it the moral dilemma, that it's not your son, that it's not his son. But I beg to differ, because when you remake something and put a different culture of people in it, it's going to change. It's going to change what some things mean. Black people don't have random godchildren. Y'all know Black people with random godchildren? We don't have random godchildren. Okay. So if that's my godchild, I am raising them, especially if my homeboy is my driver and we're together all the time and our children are best friends. I'm raising this child. This child might as well have been my child. That's what that means in the Black community when you have a godchild. You take that thing seriously. Or even not a godchild. How many of y'all got play brothers and sisters? How many of y'all just now realizing that some of these people you think are your cousins are not even your cousins? They're the people who live down the street. But your grandmama took them in, or your auntie took them in, or your mama was the one always taking people in. And they would do for those children the same that they would do for the other children. So, obviously, the 1963 film wasn't about Black people. And like I said before, I don't know if the driver's child was the boss's godchild. But the moment that Denzel Washington said out loud, "That's my godson," was the moment I said, "Oh, you're a terrible human being. This is not a conversation. This is not a conversation. We love on our kids differently," if that makes sense. So I just didn't believe that. I didn't believe that it would be that big of a moral dilemma between him and a child he is very close to. Some other random child, then yeah, maybe you got to think about it. And so for his homeboy to be like, "No, come on, man, I got you. Come on, King." Excuse me? I'm fighting you. Excuse me? When it was your kid, I was ready. I mean, with that being said, also, Paul seemed like he was a little scared to go back to jail, because once you realized it was your kid, why are you still in here talking to people since you got an ear to the streets? Since later on, you can just send a message to a group thread and everybody say, "Yeah, I know him. He lives down here." You could have put your ear to the streets to find your own kid physically, which would have made you an active character. But instead, more like a play, we're just kind of sitting in one room having the same conversation over and over and over. Like, what? All right, you don't want to give me the money, fine, but I'm going to go find this man and take him down. Like, I don't know why Paul went to jail. I don't know. For all I know, maybe he's just a thief and not a murderer. But now that your child is missing, you're not going to do nothing? You're just going to stand in here and keep asking a man who doesn't want to help you save your child instead of getting out there and just getting it done? I'm confused. Right? I'm confused. So that's more of like the just even the thought of the development. When you're writing your screenplays, I have a workbook called the Who Am I workbook, and it's about fleshing out who your characters are. And a lot of that is about understanding what their motivations are, what their biggest fears are, what their traumas are, what their wants are, what their beliefs are, so that you can put them in positions that make sense for them versus saying, "Hey, I need for this mogul to not care about this kid, but I'm going to make him his godson." Nope, that doesn't connect. But if it's, "I need this mogul to not care about this kid, so I'll just make this kid one of my kids' teammates on the basketball team. I don't really have a connection to him. I don't know him. My kid might talk about him every now and again, but I don't know that kid." Now we're in a different conversation. But when you're fleshing out this character, as soon as you made him the godchild, you changed the stakes. So now I'm going, so you just don't, you don't care about your godson? Oh, you said the audience was silent in the movie theaters. Yeah, a lot of people thought that Paul, Jeffrey Wright's character, was behind it. I didn't think that at all, but I did find him to be very unbelievably inactive. If he is supposed to be our connection to the streets, and King David is supposed to be disconnected because he's a mogul in his high rise, right? He moved on up. So he's disconnected. He's disconnected from the culture. He's disconnected from the streets. This is why his business is failing, or at least it should. These are assumptions that I'm making. This is not proof from evidence in the film. But that's what makes them different, right? So that means on the King David level, he should be thinking about, who are my enemies on this level? And then Paul should have been thinking about, let me get to the street, because if he was taken in this city, I can find him. Now, it's not going to be easy, right? But I didn't expect him to be inactive, especially once it became his kid. Okay, let's look and see what some people are saying. Yeah, you change the dynamic, making him the godson. You absolutely do. You absolutely do. Yeah, somebody else brought up a very good point, that the music industry isn't really built on moguls at this point. Like, our moguls from when we were growing up are still alive, but the music industry itself has been saturated due to, social media platforms and streaming platforms, because a lot of artists don't really need the big machine anymore, right? And so since they don't need the big machine, they're kind of doing it all independently. They don't have to stand outside of people's doors anymore and sing on the side of the street, right? Like, this is not Boys to Men, right? Like, they don't have to do that. They can just make music and put it out. So is a story about a music mogul trying to keep his business even something that we in 2025 are going to relate to and invest in? And I thought that was a good point. I thought that was a really good point, because it's like, yeah. But also, again, have we had the social proof of, but this is the kind of music they make, these are the kind of artists they sign. Ice Spice was one of the artists that was there who was looking to sign. So she wasn't somebody who was already being signed, but she also was playing a character. She wasn't playing herself, because, she had the black hair and blah, 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 blah. So I had to ask myself, is this Ice Spice? Because I don't know much about her. But, her face kind of looked familiar. And I was like, oh, this must be Ice Spice. Now, had she been actually playing herself, orange hair and all, and had she actually been an artist on his label, then now that would have been social proof. That would have shown us what kind of artist and what kind of music he's into. Now, whether you would have liked that or not is a whole nother thing. But you would have known, you would have had some information. But because we didn't get any information about what kind of artists he actually worked with, what kind of music, he actually made, then even when Young Felon came with his song that a lot of people thought were catchy, we still didn't know, like, is this the kind of music that he makes? Like, does he make this? Does he even want this? Does he like it? Could he work with him? Now, with that being said, had the antagonist been more dimensional and had more, just like stake in the game, like actually been out there trying and actually, had potential and was good at this, and we empathized with him. Like, that's what makes a good antagonist, when you have to actually go, he got a point, right? That's why Joker's a great antagonist. Heath Ledger's Joker and so on, coming this way. Jack Nicholson's Joker is, pretty one-dimensionally villainous. But when you meet a Heath Ledger Joker or a Joaquin Phoenix Joker, you have to pause and go, damn, I don't want him to kill nobody, but you got a point, right? When you think about Killmonger, you go, dang, I don't really like the way he's doing this, but he's got a point, right? If Young Felon had a point, I might have been okay with his suggestion of, let me be your next artist. One of the reasons I thought it was a wild ask is because, again, I don't know what kind of music King David makes. So I don't even know if you belong on his label. So I can't say, yeah, put him on your label, because I don't even know if you make the kind of music that he has on his label. That to the side. Number two, it would be an audacious ask, but that would be a moral dilemma. If I want to get closer to the culture, try to understand the new generation, keep my business, should I sign the person who kidnapped my godson? That's a moral dilemma. That's a question. Do I help him by bringing him in instead of pushing him out, right? Do I help this lost boy? Because that's what he is. He's a lost child. Do I help this lost boy by giving him a chance, because he has talent. If he thinks he's talented, he's the one with the ear. So that's for him to decide. He's talented. He's made some wrong decisions because he just wants to make it. I can make a difference in his life by pulling him in, but he is the very person who took my money and is the reason I am losing my business in the first place. And he took my godson. That's a moral dilemma. But because all of those things aren't set up, it just feels like the audacity. Why would you ask this question? Right? Let's see. I had no idea of what his taste or history was, only that he looked up to Aretha. Yeah, we didn't have much information there. Okay, so we are gearing up to almost an hour. Does anybody have any questions or things that you want to put out there that we haven't talked about? Thank you for participating and telling me your thoughts. I mean, at the end of the day, art is subjective. There are some people who really enjoyed this film and some people who didn't, and that happens. I try to do this critical analysis, as I said earlier, so that people who are writing and who are making films can consider the decisions that they're making, right? And what it means. And having a film, having a screenplay that is underdeveloped. So I'm saying this as many times as I'm saying it, even though I can't remember his username told us that that's not how Spike works. He doesn't develop his stuff. And I mean, I guess we'll believe him because he works with him. But as I said before, we can look at his older stuff and see that it was much more developed, whether that means he developed it himself or he had some people who helped him develop. But I'm saying this because I know that there are a lot of writers out there and filmmakers out there who are doing this independently. And I want you to care more about your script. I don't want you to think that just because I got to the end, that means I need to go into production. That's not what that means, right? A lot of the times we're not executing what we think we're executing. And it takes another set of eyes, not your mama, not your cousin, not your friend who's just going to say they liked it or they didn't. It takes another set of eyes that understands story to be able to say to you, the thing that you think you're doing on page 10, you're not. The thing that you think is happening on page 23 is not. But you know what? If you think about doing this thing, it'll connect page 10 to page 23, which will be far more impactful than what you're currently doing in your script. If you think about screenwriting as collaborative, because filmmaking is collaborative, TV writers' rooms, working with the studios, the networks, etc., all of that is collaborative. If you start looking at it as a collaborative thing and not looking at it as I'm the end all be all, nobody can tell my story the way I can tell it, I don't want to hear from anybody else, etc., then you miss what could be the thing that sets your script on fire, right? Like you miss somebody pointing something out to you that then sparks an idea that really changes what your screenplay becomes. So if you are an independent filmmaker, please, for the love of everything holy, find someone who can help you in the development of your script. You write the end and you send it to somebody. That's something that I do. If you think that you trust me, you trust my company, you trust my story experts, you can send your script to us. But even if you're not sending your script to us at www.theprofessionalpen.com, if you're not doing that, you need someone in your circle who understands story, who can help you see what you don't see, because you don't see it. It's yours. Because it's in your head, you assume it's on the page. But just because it's in your head does not mean it's on the page. Okay? Right. Zach is saying, as a teacher, I get critiqued all the time. You can't be sensitive. And you can't be. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to, instead of being sensitive, and look, I'm a writer too. I just sent my outline out to get notes from one of my story experts. And he basically sent me some stuff back, like, what is this? And what does this mean? And why is this? And blah, blah, blah. I needed to hear him say that so that I can understand that the thing that's in my head has not quite made it to the page. I didn't finish it and go, this is perfect. Let's shoot. Right? What is happening here? Child, TikTok is sending me verifications in the middle of my live. What is going on with TikTok? Um, so I suggest that you do that same thing, right? Just find some people who can help you see what you don't see, right? Yeah. Uh, Rewrites and script consultants are your friends, and they're meant to be. Let's see. Interested in seeing how many more chances the writer gets. He's already, from what I read in Hollywood Reporter, he's already got some other things in line, and he'll probably get better, hopefully. But this is the other thing: development makes you a better writer, which is why when you work with a professional pen, like, sure, we want to help you make this script good, but we want you to learn screenwriting so that you get better. It's not just about that one script, right? Like, that's what development does. When you're working with a great producer or a great director. So I have a feature right now, and there is a director that I want to work with because I think her eye is great, and I think uh, she can really expose some of the things that I'm trying to expose on camera. But also, I think her mind is brilliant, and I can't wait to get her notes. I can't wait. Now, I don't know if I'm going to work with her. I don't know if she's going to find me. I don't know. I'm trying to get to her. But I say that to say, like, I want her notes because she's probably got something going on in her head that I'm not seeing. You know what I'm saying? And that's exciting to me. Terrence says, writing has humbled me because putting my thoughts on paper has been grueling. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. Okay, before I jump, does anybody have any questions about screenwriting, about the industry? I'll answer a couple and then I will let you guys go. I appreciate y'all coming in to talk about oh yeah. So here's a comment from Forever Habitual. Recently watched an interview where a phenomenal writer admits to have spent 9 to 12 months with outlining alone. I have been doing that with my outline this year. I thought I was going to be able to finish the script, and maybe I will, but my life is kind of getting out of hand and my business always comes first. Like, I'm doing this right now instead of writing. So I say that to say, I sent out my outline, and from the notes that I got, it gave me permission to rewrite and make different choices. And so I'm going to be starting over with my outline. So who knows how long that'll take me to do. And then I'll start writing the script. It's a process. How do you get people to read your script without begging, being desperate? Okay, that's a good question. I'll say it to you like I just said it on a consultation I was on. When you're asking someone to read your script, you're asking them to invest their time and their money on something they may not get a return on investment. Producers don't get paid until the box office. Managers and agents don't get paid if you don't get paid. So I think we have to understand as writers what we're really asking someone to do. If you're looking for feedback, submit it to the professional pen. If you're looking for someone to make your film, you are asking them, please put in years, sometimes decades of your time without any money, no money at all, in hopes that we get a return at the box office. That's what you're asking. So it's not necessarily begging as much as it is the same thing when you go to get a loan for your home or for anything else. You saying to them, what I have here is something that can change both of our lives, and I need you to give me money, and then I'll give you some back. It's not begging, but if I know that I'm going to have to put a decade of my time into your project, not my project, yours, then hell yeah, I better love it. Hell yeah, it better talk to my soul. Because at the end of this thing, I may not get a dime, which is different for an executive at a studio who's getting a salary, different for a director who gets attached to it, right? Because that director is going to get paid to do the job. Also different for the writer, because once whoever it is does pick it up or does buy it, you're going to get your check. Those producers, however, don't get any money until money is made. So you are asking them a big, 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 big favor. And so it's not about begging, it's about alignment, which is why you as the writer have to do the research to make sure you're asking the right person in the first place. Half of the reason that you're begging is because you're asking somebody who makes action films to make your rom-com. That's why it sounds like you're begging. You're like, why won't they respond to me? They don't make the thing that you're asking them to read. They don't even make that, child. They don't even make that. And you are mad because they won't respond to you. The amount of people who send me emails and DMs with a link to their movie, a link to their screenplay, because they want me to produce it. So you didn't go to the website and read nothing. You didn't push no buttons, not one, because that's not what I do. The amount of people who send me stuff and say, hey, can you connect me to this, this, and that? I'm not a manager. I'm not an agent. You haven't done one piece of research, but you want people to invest their time and their millions of dollars into your story? Come on. Come on. You're not even being honest with yourself about that. You're not being honest with yourself about that. And this is not about you, you know what I'm saying, in particular. I just mean that's a part of your job as the writer. You're thinking, my job is to the end. Boom. Your job is to research. Your job is to network. And your job is to strategize on who you're going to network with. Your job is to know a little bit of something before you push send on that email. The amount of emails I get where they have put everybody in the to field and they sent us all the same email. Now, granted, I'm not a producer anyway, so I shouldn't even be on this list. But you didn't take the time to go to my website and see what I do. So now you got me in here on this list with everybody else. Right? Okay, so let me see if there are questions on this side. Do you watch independent films on Tubi? I do not. Does the professional pen read features? We do. We read features and TV scripts and shorts. I'm preparing to join the WGA Vet Fellowship. Also preparing, I lost it. Also preparing for law school. And any advice on preparing for law school? No, sir, I don't have any. The WGA is not a fellowship. The WGA is a union. So that's number one, right? So go ahead, go over to Google so that you can look up the WGA and go to their website so that you can learn what it is that they do and how that's helpful for you. The WGA is not something you just decide to join. The WGA is a union. So just like in any other field, you have to be a working writer with particular amount of points to join the union. And then the union is like your advocate and also where you get your benefits and your retirement plan from. So you don't just get to say, hey, I'm going to join the union, right? Like you have to first meet the requirements, and all of that is listed on the website. If you're asking me about the vet fellowship, I don't know much about the vet fellowship, but I do know that WGA has good fellowships. So if that's a program that you would like to apply for, then you should. All right. I'm going to answer one more question over here. Do you see 50 million to 100 million before P&A projects returning to the box office soon in response to the flop? Okay, you're going to have to put that in plain English for me, Dustin. I'm not sure what you mean. How do I get counsel with you? The link is in the bio. www.theprofessionalpen.com. Consultations. All right, here we go. Let's go over to YouTube and see what y'all's questions are, if you have any. It doesn't look like it. Looks like you guys are talking to each other, which I love. I love that y'all are in here talking to each other. Great. No questions over there. So I'll come back to TikTok. What was it that made you decide to make writing and filmmaking a career? I grew up wanting to be a writer, but I wanted to be an author. I didn't know screenwriters existed. Uh, I grew up during a time where, we didn't really have internet and all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't know how stories got put on television, but I grew up wanting to be an author. So I've always wanted to be a writer. And it wasn't until my senior year in college that my mother sent me an article from like Jet or Ebony magazine about a Black female TV writer that I said, oh, that's what I want to do. That was an easy question. How did you muster the strength to watch the entire film? I don't know, but I did it. I made it through. I did it in 2 sittings though. I had to stop and then I came back the next day. Okay, let me see if I missed any questions on here before we jump. After they've agreed to read, how long makes sense to wait? I think you should at least give them a couple of weeks before you say something. If you are feeling nice about it, give them a month and then reach out to them, see if they respond to you. If they don't, give it another couple of weeks. I would say reach out 2 or 3 times. At the end of the day, this is the thing. At the end of the day, if they're interested, they're going to contact you. They didn't forget. Because their job is to make movies or make TV series and be successful at it. If your script was so fantastic, they didn't forget. They may not have read it yet, but they didn't forget. If they read it and it wasn't fantastic for them, doesn't mean you're a bad writer, but just might not be the thing that they're looking for. You're not on a priority list to respond to. So no news is not necessarily bad news, but it does mean move on with your life, right? Don't put all of your eggs in that one basket. That's the simplest way of saying it. Reach out a couple of times, give them time because they are busy. You're not the only person in their inbox. Multiply yourself times 300. You're not the only screenplay. Multiply that times 50, right? And then reach out a few times. And if you don't hear back, you don't hear back. And just to make you feel better, I'm in the industry and people ignore me too. This industry is full of people who ignore people. You're not a priority until you are. That sucks. It effing sucks. And I hate it too, especially colleague to colleague, because all you had to do is respond. I ain't asking from nothing for you. But that's how people are here. Things are prioritized and they're being contacted left, right, front, and center. And you just aren't the priority. The thing that's making the money, the thing that's got a budget on it, the thing that has a deadline on it, that's the thing that's the priority. And it's just not you. It's not personal. You know what I'm saying? They're not doing it to just you. But if they want to work with you because whatever you sent to them speaks to them, you don't have to worry about how long it's going to take them to contact you. They'll contact you. Believe it. All right, let's see. Does Hollywood care about film fellowships? What do you mean? What do you mean, do they care about film fellowships? As in, if you do a film fellowship, does that automatically mean that now you're going to be in the door? No, nothing means that. Nothing means that. Look at the film fellowship as an opportunity to network and to learn. Because maybe somebody in that room can do something for you a year down the road. Maybe it does mean that you'll get connected to somebody who wants to make your movie right now. Maybe. But also, most film fellowships are not doing that. Like, you can read the rules, or whatever you want to call it. They'll tell you what the expected outcome is, right? And so you may be saying to yourself, putting this on my resume is going to mean something, and maybe it will to some people and maybe it won't to others. But don't do it because you think it's going to mean something to people. Do it because what they told you you could get out of it is something that you need, right? Like, don't do the fellowship just to go, I did the fellowship. Do the fellowship so you can get something out of it. And that way, if you get something out of it, it doesn't matter if your film got made. You got introduced to a person who you're now going to co-write on something with later, and then that got made. You know what I mean? All of it is about the next thing. That's why I always say your screenplay, no matter what, is your writing sample. I don't care how bad you want to make it and how much is your baby and blah, 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 blah. That script is the thing that's going to get you the next thing. And then that thing is the thing that's going to get you the next thing. And then that thing is the thing that's going to get you the next thing. It's not about this particular script that has to get made. It's like, no, that script is what made you meet this person. And because you met that person, that's how you did this next thing. Let's take it back to Alan Fox and then we'll cut this thing. Alan Fox was writing screenplays. Jason Michael Berman knew that he was writing screenplays. It's not those screenplays that made him be a part of our conversation right now. It's Jason Michael Berman on one random day calling him and saying, hey, got this project. I need a writer. And Alan Fox saying, okay. And writing it. That's how we got here. So that's how you should look at all of it. Look at the fellowships that way. I know plenty of people who have done fellowships and small things have come from it, but not the big thing. This industry is not about being on top and staying there, right? Almost everybody's ride is like this. Or it took them 20 years to get there. Like even if you look at Morgan Freeman and Samuel L. Jackson, right? It took them how many years before they became like the man? And now they're consistently that, right? But then you look at Cuba Gooding Jr. and he went from making an Oscar to then making movies about dogs on sleds in the snow, right? So you're always, instead of thinking about this thing making me make it, and then everything will just be perfect after that, and I won't have to work as hard. This is a hustle. It's always a hustle. You decide to sign up for this, you're going to be hustling for your whole life, the rest of your life. It's a hustle. Everything. It's always a hustle. There's always somebody coming behind you. There's always something better happening. It's a hustle. It's a hustle. It's a hustle. So that's one of the reasons why, again, bringing it back to highest and lowest, a Denzel who is friends with Spike, because they've been friends all this time, can say, hey, I want to make this thing. We got this kid to write the script. Read it real quick. You want to do this with me? And Spike can go, yeah. Now, whether that turns out to be a fantastic film or not is really neither here nor there. We can be as disappointed as we want to because we have an expectation because of what we've seen before. But at the end of the day, this is the kind of nepotism that we're all looking for. This is the kind of nepotism we're all looking for somebody to just be able to call us like Jason Michael Berman did for Alan Fox, and for Spike and Denzel to do the same thing with each other. That's the game. That's what we're looking for. But you can't do that if you're only looking for the stature and not making the relationships. And I'm talking to myself. Like, I'm not all that great at networking. I'm a little bit better at it because I force myself to do it, right? But it's relationship building, because it's those relationships that are going to get you making stuff. Like if you look at the people who started off with Issa Rae on that web series, look at where they are now. Right? Okay. I know I said that was the last question, but I haven't answered one from those dogs were in the snow. What was the name of that movie? Y'all know he did that movie. Oh, Nitaverse said, Loretta Devine says she won an Emmy and was fired from Grey's Anatomy the following week. That's what I'm saying. It's a hustle. It stays a hustle, right? Okay, I'm going to answer this last question for real on YouTube, and then I'm going to let y'all go. How legit is the blacklist? There's not a lot of Black writers who come out of Franklin Leonard's blacklist. So I actually made a post about this. You should go see it. You should be able to search on whichever platform you're on about my post for the blacklist. Here are my thoughts, and it's not dissimilar to what I've said about all these other things. Just don't put all of your eggs in that basket. Has it been successful for some people? Yes. That's how Air got made. Air got made from the blacklist. But that's one out of every, how many people are spending their money and putting their script up there and getting a score and then repeating and paying every single time so they can get a particular score in hopes that somebody reads it and over 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 again. Right? It's an option. Treat it as an option, not an end all be all. I personally think it has become a little bit more pyramid schemey than it used to be. I had a client back when the blacklist was like first really getting its name out there, who made an 8, as a score, and was supposed to meet with some people and all that and whatever, and nothing really came from it. You know what I mean? But him being able to say, I have an 8 on the blacklist was something that helped him to do something else. Right? But the reason I feel like it's become a little bit Snow Dogs. Oh, that was simple. That was the name of the movie, Snow Dogs. the reason that I think it has become a little more pyramid schemey is because you have to pay to host your script, I think monthly, and then you have to pay each time for a score. So you're basically paying to play, right? Every time that you resubmit your script, you get a different reader, which means they don't know what your last score was, what those last set of notes were. They're reading it like it's brand new, fresh, which is not how the development process works in the studio system. So you're getting notes from a totally different person. And because notes are subjective, those notes could be terribly conflicting from the other set of notes that you got. So while you went home and revised your script based on the notes from reader number 97, you now have reader number 103. And reader number 103 has a totally different, set of notes and feelings about that script. And you don't know how reader number 103 would have felt about your original draft. So those are my thoughts about the blacklist. I'm not saying don't use it. It's just an option, and that's all. Use it. It might work out for you. It might not. All right, guys. So if you are ready for screenplay feedback, submit your script for development notes. If you are at the beginning and you're like, yo, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to do. We have a screenwriting community called the Screenwriters Social. Link in the bio to join it. It's only $5 a month, and you can come in and join us and just hang out. We do screenwriting challenges. We do live calls. You get feedback on the challenges that you do, and you get to kind of just commune with other people. And some of the people are in here now. So hey to y'all who are in our screenwriting community. You get to just commune with other people and kind of ask questions and not feel like you're doing this by yourself. So if you're at the very beginning of this and you're like, yo, I need a community, I need some people, I need something behind me so that I can learn, join our social. If you are someone who's like, I don't really need a community, I can kind of learn on my own, I just need to know how to do it, I need a process, I need a plan, we have workbooks for you. So you can go to professionalpen.com/workbooks, and the workbooks take you all the way from idea to script. It teaches you how to outline. It teaches you how to do character bios, right? It teaches you how to figure out your plot, that investigation thing again. You can get to the social, click the link in my bio, but it's www.school.com/screenwriters with an S. But it's probably easier if you click, and that way it'll take you straight there. But I hope to see y'all over there. Hey, love it there. Woo-hoo. Hope to see y'all over there. And until next time, I'm going to try to go live more often. I'm going to try to announce it. Usually I'm just like, boop, here I am. I'm going to try to announce it and do a little better at that. So thank you guys on YouTube for being here. Thank you on Instagram for being here. Thank you on TikTok for being here. Happy writing, everyone. All right, now I got to figure out how to get out of all of these because I don't know. I know how to do it on Instagram. That one's easy. I know how to do it on TikTok. That one's easy. Bye, guys. But I don't know how to do it on YouTube. Oh, I found it. All right, guys. Peace.